5:34 p.m. I am very pleased that you have taken time to join us this evening. In compliance with the State Government Code on Open Meetings, tonight's agenda has been appropriately posted. These proceedings are being video and audio recorded and will become part of Judson's permanent legal record. In order that the tape adequately reflects these proceedings, please silence your mobile devices and refrain from talking while others are speaking. Once again, I extend to each of you a sincere welcome from the entire school board. Thank you for your interest in Judson ISD. We have established a quorum, and I will call roll, and I will start with Ms. Eaton.
Deborah Eaton, present.
Ms. Canoyer.
Suzanne Canoyer, present.
Ms. King.
Shatanya King, present.
Mr. Diaz.
Rafael Diaz, present.
Ms. Rodriguez.
Jennifer Rodriguez, present.
And I'm Renee Pichelle, present. And I would like to welcome our Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Jeanette Ball.
Welcome.
And Dr. Ball, would you like to introduce for the record Mr. Ed Vada?
Yes, so today with our Team of 8 training, we have Region 20, Mr. Ed Vada, with us. So thank you for being here with us, sir.
Thank you very much.
And I'd also like to acknowledge that we have a Judson District 4 candidate. Yvette Livingston is joining us this evening. Thank you for being here, Ms. Livingston. Okay, Dr. Ball?
Yes, thank you. We will start tonight with our Team of 8 training, and we will start with Mr. Vada sharing some information, and then I also have some information to share with you. And then the email that Ed sent out. It was a difficult day when it came to testing. Difficult in the sense that TA had some glitches. So the technology glitches were not Judson ISD glitches. They were by TA. I know of at least 8 other schools that had issues, but from what I heard, there was a lot more. And when I say schools, I meant school districts. So I heard there was lots of other issues going on. And I know that Ed said that there was some latest information that TA put out.
Yes, so thank you. Actually, the issues were statewide. So it was not just a couple of districts here or this region, it was statewide. And it impacted those that were taking the 4th grade writing, the grade 7 writing, and English 1 online tests. So what happened basically was some kids got on, many did not, many kind of on, off. So, it just sort of reminded me a little bit of what we went through in the Snowvid with the lights coming on, the lights going off, the lights coming on, the lights going off. So it created an issue for kids. So the plan right now, and this is as of 4:21 this afternoon, is TEA will resume the testing tomorrow. There is a window, so districts have lots of options there. And that's the plan unless we hear it from them by 5 a.m. in the morning. So it's almost like bad weather makeup, waiting for do the buses roll or not. Right now, the dictionary functionality is going to not be available, okay? So again, that's just one thing that they know is happening. They also had a number of FAQs they put into place. And so those were sent out to the district coordinators this afternoon as soon as we got that information. So they'll be on it, I'm sure, watching it. So as Dr. Ball said, it was not a good day for testing, and lots of issues. Lots of kids came back to do the test, and it was just kind of like, and let's be clear, this is an ETS issue. It's the testing contractor issue. And so everybody's nightmare, but hopefully we're past that, and things will be better in the morning. So again, but I do think it's really clear that we alert the patrons to the fact that it is not a Judson, it wasn't a particular campus issue, wasn't even a region issue. This was a statewide issue, and it was sporadic. Some on, some off. and some on and off, which created some issues. And truthfully, let's back up a little bit and think about if we were going to have these issues, actually not a bad year to have the issues because it's not impacting accountability for the district. It's not impacting the kid in terms of, pass, fail, this sort of thing at those high stake grades. The other issue is it gives us at least some data back. But again, that every time you have any of these glitches, it just makes a question about the data. Okay? And so it is what it is. Renee.
Can I just, oh yes, thanks. Just to interject that for us, if we have any parents in our district that calls us or sends us an email, we can just let them know. And I'm also saying this to you, Ms. Livingston. You're going to hear the negative. I already have read it on Facebook. And they want to blame the school district, and it's not our fault. And we just need to reiterate what Ed just said, that it is a TEA issue. It's a glitch all over the entire state, and that's the way we need to.
And the good news, absolutely. I think it's the context for the work and the problem that we've had. The good news is there's already been a number of media outlets that have put out information. So, and I'm sure it's on the 5 o'clock evening news. It'll be on the 10 o'clock news, and it'll be splashed on the paper in the morning.
Yeah.
And hopefully objectively. I mean, the agency came out with a press release by, I guess it was about mid-afternoon is when that first came out. So that's out there. But still, if people aren't connected with that, it's important that they know that. So thank you. Yes, that's an important piece.
People are really touchy this year because of all the things that have gone on. And, they had to make considerations for their children to come to campus if they were virtual learners or stay home if they weren't fourth graders and pre-Kers, which is what we opted to do at our elementaries. And so they're going to have to be a little flexible with us to try to get done what we need to get done, and we do appreciate all those parents that are being gracious about things that are beyond our control.
And just reminding everybody that this was the year that we're saying we're here about the results to figure out what are the gaps our kids are facing, without penalty for the grade 5 and 8, without penalty for to a student being held back, without penalty to the district in terms of accountability ratings. And the other key factor is understanding, and again, this is just that message that needs to continue to get out there, the difference between what happens in grades 3 through 8 and what happens at high school, because that's end of course versus STAR. So understanding that difference, but we fortunately have the grade placement committees available to us at the secondary level. So, any other questions or questions? I'm sorry? Mm-hmm. I honestly don't remember the last time where it was in transition or because ETS had they kind of got it last minute, so I don't remember who. The common factor is the test contractor.
Now, I don't know if this is true or not, but I think I had heard that this was the last year that one was going to be used. I could be wrong, but that's what I thought.
That I don't know. I don't.
That as well. That particular contractor?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and remember, we're going to in 23 online, and then we're also going to the writing being embedded in the reading and the writing being embedded as an integrated test. So, yeah. Okay. I'm going to just show one tape for a second, and then if that's okay. Which is not what I told you, so sorry, I'm changing it up. Okay, guys. So thank you for, first of all, inviting us back. I'm glad to be here with you tonight. Just a reminder that this is a team building, so this gives us an opportunity to really have open discussions. It's a little bit different than the format of bringing a motion and voting and this sort of thing. This is an exchange of ideas. No actions are being taken. A reminder for the public, nothing's being voted on tonight. It's a workshop. So we want to keep that in mind. So we have a number of things to talk about. So on the screen, we're going to open up with a video clip I'd like to share with you on leadership. Then we're talking about the district's strategic priorities, the superintendent's priorities, the superintendent evaluation instrument, to have some conversation around that, long-range planning, budget ideas, and then we're going to close at the very end with another video on service. I don't believe you've seen that last one, but you may have seen the first one. So before I turn it over to Dr. Paul, I'd like to play a video, and I'd like for you to think about this video. It's one probably some of you, because of your military connections, may have seen. It's actually the graduation address done by Admiral McRaven. Okay, talks about 10 important lessons. What's different about it this time, and don't worry about writing the lessons, I have a copy of those lessons here for you, so I will pass that out. I want you to think about this as well over what we've experienced over the last year. So the context is a little different, and yet I think the lessons are equally important. Okay. So just for a show of hands, how many of you have seen that graduation or familiar with it? I know you've seen it too. Okay, great. 3, maybe? Okay. Oops. Hang on just 1 second.
Here changes the world. I have a few suggestions that may help you on your way to a better world. Served a day in uniform. It matters not your gender, your ethnic or religious background, your orientation, or your social status. Our struggles in this world are similar, and the lessons to overcome those struggles and to move forward, changing ourselves and changing the world around us, will apply equally to all. So here are the 10 lessons I learned from basic SEAL training that hopefully will be of value to you as you move forward in life. Every morning in SEAL training, my instructors, who at the time were all Vietnam veterans, would show up in my barracks room, and the first thing they'd do was inspect my bed. If you did it right, the corners would be square, the covers would be pulled tight, the pillow centered just under the headboard, and the extra blanket folded neatly at the foot of the rack. It was a simple task, mundane at best, but every morning we were required to make our bed to perfection. It seemed a little ridiculous at the time, particularly in light of the fact that we were aspiring to be real warriors, tough, battle-hardened SEALs. But the wisdom of this simple act has been proven to me many times over. If you make your bed every morning, you will have accomplished the first task of the day. It will give you a small sense of pride, and it will encourage you to do another task, and another, and another. And by the end of the day, that one task completed will have turned into many tasks completed. Making your bed will also reinforce the fact that the little things in life matter. If you can't do the little things right, you'll never be able to do the big things right. And if by chance you have a miserable day, you will come home to a bed that is made, that you made. And a made bed gives you encouragement that tomorrow will be better. So if you want to change the world, start off by making your bed. During SEAL training, the students...
For just $67, you can make as many videos as you want, and you never need to pick up a camera or use any fancy editing software.
During training, the students are all broken down into boat crews. Each crew is 7 students, 3 on each side of a small rubber boat, and 1 coxswain to help guide the dinghy. Every day, your boat crew forms up on the beach and is instructed to get through the surf zone and paddle several miles down the coast. In the winter, the surf off San Diego can get to be 8 to 10 feet high, and it is exceedingly difficult to paddle through the plunging surf unless everyone digs in. Every paddle must be synchronized to the stroke count of the coxswain. Everyone must exert equal effort, or the boat will turn against the wave and be unceremoniously dumped back on the beach. For the boat to make it to its destination, everyone must paddle. You can't change the world alone. You will need some help. And to truly get from your starting point to your destination takes friends, colleagues, the goodwill of strangers, and a strong coxswain to guide you. If you want to change the world, find someone to help you paddle. Over a few weeks of difficult training, my SEAL class, which started with 150 men, was down to just 42. There were now 6 boat crews of 7 men each. I was in the boat with the tall guys, but the best boat crew we had was made up of the little guys, the Munchkin crew, we called them. No one was over 5'5". The Munchkin boat crew had 1 American Indian, 1 African American, 1 Polish American, 1 Greek American, 1 Italian American, and 2 tough kids from the Midwest. They out-paddled, outran, and outswam all the other boat crews. The big men in the other boat crews would always make good-natured fun of the tiny little flippers the Munchkins put on their tiny little feet prior to every swim. But somehow these little guys from every corner of the nation and the world always had the last laugh, swimming faster than everyone and reaching the shore long before the rest of us. SEAL training was a great equalizer. Nothing mattered but your will to succeed, not your color, not your ethnic background, not your education, not your social status. If you want to change the world, measure a person by the size of their heart, not by the size of their flippers. Several times a week, the instructors would line up the class and do a uniform inspection. It was exceptionally thorough. Your hat had to be perfectly starched, your uniform immaculately pressed, your belt buckle shiny and void of any smudges. But it seemed that no matter how much effort you put into starching your hat or pressing your uniform or polishing your belt buckle, it just wasn't good enough. The instructors would find something wrong. For failing the uniform inspection, the student had to run, fully clothed, into the surf zone, then wet from head to toe, roll around on the beach until every part of your body was covered with sand. The effect was known as a sugar cookie.
You ever wondered what actors and actresses do when they have to get in shape really fast for a movie?
You stayed in the uniform the rest of the day, cold, wet, and sandy. There were many a student who just couldn't accept the fact that all their efforts were in vain, that no matter how hard they tried to get the uniform right, it went unappreciated. Those students didn't make it through training. Those students didn't understand the purpose of the drill. You were never going to succeed. You were never going to have a perfect uniform. The instructors weren't going to allow it. Sometimes, no matter how well you prepare or how well you perform, you still end up as a sugar cookie. It's just the way life is sometimes. If you want to change the world, get over being a sugar cookie and keep moving forward. Every day during training, you were challenged with multiple physical events, long runs, long swims, obstacle courses, hours of calisthenics, something designed to test your mettle. Every event had standards, times you had to meet. If you failed to meet those times, those standards, your name was posted on a list, and at the end of the day, those on the list were invited to a circus. A circus was 2 hours of additional calisthenics, designed to wear you down, to break your spirit, to force you to quit. No one wanted a circus. A circus meant that for that day, you didn't measure up. A circus meant more fatigue, and more fatigue meant that the following day would be more difficult and more circuses were likely. But at some time during SEAL training, everyone made the circus list. But an interesting thing happened to those who were constantly on the list. Over time, those students who did 2 hours of extra calisthenics got stronger and stronger. The pain of the circuses built inner strength and physical resiliency. Life is filled with circuses. You will fail. You will likely fail often. It will be painful. It will be discouraging. At times, it will test you to your very core. But if you want to change the world, don't be afraid of the circuses. At least twice a week, the trainees were required to run the obstacle course. The obstacle course contained 25 obstacles, including a 10-foot wall, a 30-foot cargo net, a barbed wire crawl, to name a few. But the most challenging obstacle was the slide for life. It had a 3-level, 30-foot tower at one end and a 1-level tower at the other. In between was a 200-foot long rope. You had to climb the 3-tiered tower, and once at the top, you grabbed the rope, swung underneath the rope, and pulled yourself hand over hand until you got to the other end. The record for the obstacle course had stood for years when my class began in 1977. The record seemed unbeatable until one day a student decided to go down the slide for life head first. Instead of swinging his body underneath the rope and inching his way down, he bravely mounted the top of the rope and thrust himself forward. It was a dangerous move, seemingly foolish and fraught with risk. Failure could mean injury and being dropped from the course. Without hesitation, the student slid down the rope perilously fast. Instead of several minutes, it only took him half that time. And by the end of the course, he had broken the record. If you want to change the world, sometimes you have to slide down the obstacles head first. During the land warfare phase of training, the students are flown out to San Clemente Island, which lies off the coast of San Diego. The waters off San Clemente are a breeding ground for the great white sharks. To pass SEAL training, there are a series of long swims that must be completed. One is the night swim. Before the swim, the instructors joyfully brief the students on all the species of sharks that inhabit the waters off San Clemente. They assure you, however, that no student has ever been eaten by a shark, at least not that they can remember. But you are also taught that if a shark begins to circle your position, stand your ground. Do not swim away. Do not act afraid. And if the shark, hungry for a midnight snack, darts towards you, then summons up all your strength and punch him in the snout, and he will turn and swim away. There are a lot of sharks in the world. If you hope to complete the swim, you will have to deal with them. So if you want to change the world,
you need the food bunker. You have a bit.
don't back down from the sharks. As Navy SEALs, one of our jobs is to conduct underwater attacks against enemy shipping. We practice this technique extensively during training. The ship attack mission is where a pair of SEAL divers is dropped off outside an enemy harbor and then swims well over 2 miles underwater, using nothing but a depth gauge and a compass to get to the target. During the entire swim, even well below the surface, there is some light that comes through. It is comforting to know that there is open water above you. But as you approach the ship, which is tied to a pier, the light begins to fade. The steel structure of the ship blocks the moonlight. It blocks the surrounding street lamps. It blocks all ambient light. To be successful in your mission, you have to swim under the ship and find the keel, the center line, and the deepest part of the ship. This is your objective. But the keel is also the darkest part of the ship, where you cannot see your hand in front of your face, where the noise from the ship's machinery is deafening, and where it gets to be easily disoriented, and you can fail. Every SEAL knows that under the keel, at that darkest moment of the mission, is a time when you need to be calm, when you must be calm, when you must be composed, when all your tactical skills, your physical power, and your inner strength must be brought to bear. If you want to change the world, you must be your very best in the darkest moments. The 9th week of training is referred to as Hell Week. It is 6 days of no sleep, constant physical and mental harassment, and one special day at the Mud Flats. The Mud Flats are an area between San Diego and Tijuana where the water runs off and creates the Tijuana Sloughs, a swampy patch of terrain where the mud will engulf you. It is on Wednesday of Hell Week that you paddle down in the mud flats and spend the next 15 hours trying to survive this freezing cold, the howling wind, and the incessant pressure to quit from the instructors. As the sun began to set that Wednesday evening, my training class, having committed some egregious infraction of the rules, was ordered into the mud. The mud consumed each man till there was nothing visible but our heads. The instructors told us we could leave the mud if only 5 men would quit. Only 5 men, just 5 men, and we could get out of the oppressive cold. Looking around the mud flat, it was apparent that some students were about to give up. It was still over 8 hours till the sun came up. 8 more hours of bone-chilling cold. The chattering teeth and the shivering moans of the trainees were so loud, it was hard to hear anything. And then one voice began to echo through the night. One voice raised in song. The song was terribly out of tune, but sung with great enthusiasm. One voice became 2, and 2 became 3, and before long, everyone in the class was singing. The instructors threatened us with more time in the mud if we kept up the singing, but the singing persisted, and somehow the mud seemed a little warmer, and the wind a little tamer, and the dawn not so far away. If I have learned anything in my time traveling the world, it is the power of hope. The power of one person, a Washington, a Lincoln, King, Mandela, and even a young girl from Pakistan, Malala. One person can change the world by giving people hope. So if you want to change the world, start singing when you're up to your neck in mud. Finally, in SEAL training, there's a bell. A brass bell that hangs in the center of the compound for all the students to see. All you have to do to quit is ring the bell. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to wake up at 5 o'clock. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to be in the freezing cold swims. Ring the bell, and you no longer have to do the runs, the obstacle course, the PT, and you no longer have to endure the hardships of training. All you have to do is ring the bell to get out.
Did you know you can go to libertymutual.com to customize your car insurance so you only pay for what you need?
Really?
If you want to change the world, don't ever, ever ring the bell. It will not be easy. Start each day with a task completed. Find someone to help you through life. Respect everyone. Know that life is not fair and that you will fail often. But if you take some risks, step up when the times are the toughest, face down the bullies, lift up the downtrodden, and never, ever give up. If you do these things, the next generation and the generations that follow will live in a world far better than the one we have today. And what started here will indeed have changed the world for the better. Thank you very much.
So it occurs to me that as you reflect on our last year, we've all been at boot camp, so to speak, and the lessons, I think, bode well. And we've probably, through the last 12 to 18 months, experienced all of that. The power of hope, never giving up, starting the day with just a little thing, making the bed. I love that. It's a great thing. So just thought that would be something to kind of start us off today as we think about our conversations this evening, that you make a difference, and that your investment in each other, in this district, and in your kids is so important. So just wanted you to hear that, and for those of you that have seen it before, thank you for bearing with it. You haven't seen it with the ads. So, I mean, that was something special. So, comments or anything from the group?
I just always love looking at motivational, always love looking at motivational things. Helps motivate me.
Mm-hmm.
And especially when it's physical. I love the physical part. So thank you, Ed. That was good.
Good.
Yes,
Renee.
very motivational, and thank you for giving us a copy of this.
Yeah.
I'm going to hang this up in my office tomorrow morning and just look at this when I have time, when I'm having one of those days or
Yes.
moments. So
Yes.
thank you, very motivational.
You're welcome.
Just to point out, sorry, the allergies got my throat messed up. But it was interesting to see that none of the 10 steps are anything outside of the capacity of any individual, right? They're very instinctual, people-centered, and it's not requiring that you do anything grandiose, but that the tools are innately in you. So I think that's special.
Yes, ma'am.
I just want to say, I think that we get all caught up with life in general, working, kids, family, so this is just a reminder of to start the day off positive, on a positive note. Positivity feeds positivity. So thank you so much. This is great.
You're welcome. Thank you. Anyone else? You have the link to the YouTube. So if you want to see that, share that with others, it's there. This actually was a graduation address. And I thought, wow, I would hate to follow somebody like that. Just great. So now, Dr. Ball, you are going to make sure I get your PowerPoint up.
I have one thing on that. Yes, that would be great. Everybody gets one of these. Okay.
Each clip is something different.
Everybody gets one of these. What was that?
Oh,
Yes, everybody gets one of these.
Yep.
Everybody gets one of these. Oh, that was my tongue. Thank you. Everybody gets one of these.
Is that okay?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Perfect. Thank you.
Testing.
How many should we have, Dr. Ball?
Excuse me?
How many should we end up with?
I think it was 4.
Okay, I'm missing some.
Which one are you missing?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, wait, he comes off.
Okay. I have a look on my. Let me give you this one.
We have 3. Right. Thank you.
So one of the things that I know we wanted to talk about was our strategic priorities, mainly because I know that certainly the board has seen this many times. The board has a copy and has seen this many times. This started the work that we did with our strategic planning, and then also very proud specifically of the work that we started to do with Holdsworth. This is the guide that I always refer to in regards to if we're going to do something, is it falling in line with effective instruction, involving families and community, positive school culture? And we're doing those 3 things. How? With leadership and with good customer service. So we like to look at it as our house. And our foundation is our leadership and our customer service. Then if you want to go even deeper, then you look at each one of the items, and under effective instruction, it says, what is it that Judson ISD is going to be about, and so forth. So this isn't anything new, but I wanted to bring this up because one of the tools that you might want to use in evaluating me might be this document, because as a district, this was approved by the board, and as a district, this is what we said that we would want to do. Then what I ended up doing also is looking at different samples. Lots of different districts use lots of other forms of evaluation tools. So I got with Jameson, and he shared with me lots of different examples. At no time do you have to use one of these exactly like that. You can pick and choose what you like, okay? So what I was thinking today is that we would start the work on this. It might take a couple of meetings. We have really until June. That would be the next time that the board would be evaluating these. So we have some time. But I thought that tonight we would take a little bit of time to look at these. We would work in groups and partners, and you would work with your partner and then be able to discuss you and your partner really liked whatever part of it is, and then kind of share out. So I thought if it's okay, we would start with a group of 3, and then see, let's say it's you 3, and then you 3, and see which one of those tools do you really like? Is there a component or some wording? Or maybe you don't like any of those and you want us to start and develop something new. Thoughts, ideas? Okay. All right, we'll talk. We'll give each other about 15 minutes.
Each one of these is different.
Yes, ma'am. Each one is different. And that's why in your group, you'll look at which one is it that you really like. Maybe it's the whole piece of one, a part of one. What is it that you really like about those tools? Because what you're wanting to end up with is a brand new tool for me. Would you like me to, Miss E, would you like a table closer to you? You're okay? Okay, perfect. Okay. Did y'all turn off your mic? Oh, okay. Yeah, just wanted to make sure. Is it all off? Oh, it's me. Sorry, it's me. Okay. Okay, perfect. Thank you.
And maybe it was me in my presentation that I didn't include that because our fund balance has increased. You know, our tax rate has been lowered. So maybe I didn't communicate those specific data points to help the board.
So the other problem you come back to is what the rules say. You guys can do anything you want, but you must have some kind of student performance.
Right.
But this year, that's a little bit of a real different issue we're finding out. And it's in anything else. The budget, you're going to go to the big, you know, people have stuff.
You know, this is what, you know, good smart thing that this should do, and this is evaluating good smart things that the superintendent should do, so they a lot.
I think it's important. I mean, the questions you guys have to answer is what the case was. And what evidence was found about
I think that wasn't my concern, that came from Robert.
But we get it, I mean, I'm saying the board that needs to be the discussion.
Now I know you didn't want me.
No, we were just talking about what you mentioned at the time that we did her evaluation. And you were talking about more data to support, you know, the instrument. So we're just kind of talking about, since we know we're not going to have star data, we're not going to have any of that kind of.
Well, apparently any star data we use is wrong.
It's going to be, yeah, because it won't be accurate.
But you do have your diagnostics that the district
Yes.
is using.
Okay, so.
Yes, we do.
So
We have our
maybe they should
benchmark
use-
type
Yes.
data, we have telehealth type data.
Okay.
It doesn't have a basis of comparison statewide.
Yeah.
Right.
But it does have, I mean, obviously the district chosen for valid reasons, they're reliable. So you do have that kind
So
of
we do
data.
have something that, you know, with a company.
I'm gonna give us a high level, because I'm struggling with this exercise. I'm just gonna give high level to all of us. Maybe y'all can guide me to where I speak. So I think when I think about your evaluation, it's really a culmination of a number of micro evals or micro data sets that I see throughout the year, right? And the evaluation is a formal process. So I think for me what would be interesting to ensure that I understand trends and that I understand have you been pulling the appropriate levers is knowing, like, I think I heard this earlier, our recruitment and retention, the attendance, those micro benchmarks, just to guide us and give us insight at how we're trending on a monthly or quarterly, whatever's appropriate, I don't know what's appropriate. And then at the end of it, the eval is really a summation of all those things.
Right.
So we have an idea how it's gone, and more importantly, should there be course correction, not only correcting you, but course correction of our system, then we've done it as a pivot along the way. And then, you know, that all kind of gets surmised versus a big data dump once a year where I have no context. It's not fair to you either, because you don't know where we started from, where we're at. If some of the things that we're looking at here, I don't know. Jenny said, like, we might not have line of sight into things like, Jenny, let me know.
How you work across diverse lines of diversity in your managing people, right? Like, I don't see the day-to-day management. I don't know if you interact with us, but like,
On the day-to-day operation.
For me to better understand, can you give me an example of what you would like to see on my evaluation?
yeah. Well, I can only speak for myself, given it's like open up full conversation, but I think like, and I'm defaulting to the way I'm evaluated at work.
Okay.
So like, I'll just share how I'm evaluated at work. And so I have, my KPIs, my key performance indicators are like, we have to have this level of retention of our teachers over the course of the year. We need to have this level of satisfaction on these two questions in the survey. And there's like 2 more. So I have like 4 or 5 key performance indicators that are like the whole thing of what I'm evaluated on.
And then when I submit my performance evaluation, like, and we have four priorities, there's like one or two key performance indicators aligned to each of those things. And so I think like, it's maybe not the tool per se, but maybe it's the next step in the strategic, planning, the strategic priorities of like, okay, what will the key performance indicators be that we're looking at to prove that we've accomplished what we set out to do in effective instruction? So for effective instruction, I think that would be like, we see this level of academic growth is measured by this assessment in our students. And then, and that's hard, that's tricky this year. And then here are some process things that we did in order to get to the level of achievement. So like, you did an excellent job of laying out, like, here are the things I've done in the district. It's the like, so that sorry, so sorry. Did she come out here? And I did this whole genius thing. My phone didn't capture any of it. Any of my genius. No, I'm You're doing great. And so I think like, yeah, what I would like to see is like, what are the numeric goals that are attached to these like process? You know, we're saying if we do these things, it's going to result in X. And so that we can, and not that I like it always has to be quantitative, but there's like one step that I personally would like to see.
So what I'm hearing in that conversation is it's helpful when you have metrics that show. Okay, got it. It's helpful when you show, when you have metrics to show the growth, okay? And it may be difficult for you guys to have the metrics, okay? The other thing that's going to make this year very different is when you said trend, in some areas it will be multiple years, but in many areas it's going to be like the last 12, 18 months, and it's going to be kind of quirky, okay? It's an off year, but budget isn't off. It's because you have trend data, but it's not at the same level as student data. Okay, so we're going to look at some metrics that, for example, if you use the gold, what do you use in elementary? I forget, the early grades, reading assessment.
Oh, the beginning of the year assessment,
that thing, okay, whatever it is, okay, sorry. Yeah, so if you're using that, which you probably didn't use the year before because those were like strategies, but since that's what you've got, and you don't have STAR or you don't have something else, then that's what you're going to be using, okay, for this, hopefully, only 1 year. The other thing is, I think it behooves us in a transition year. I mean, you've heard me say this before. Keep it simple. So when you can do, you articulated, and I don't need to know, but basically 3 KPIs. Okay, that's clear. That's doable. Remember when we were setting goals under House Bill 3? 3 goals. Okay. The truth of the matter is, you said it. You nailed it when you said every board meeting. So you have 12 evidences throughout the year of how she's doing, okay? I mean, and that's not the only thing. She's bombarding you with information weekly, bi-weekly, information's coming out. Those are all, but part of it is how do I retain all of that, and what's the ups and the downs and this without, you don't need her coming in with 5 file cabinets and 10 disks, okay, for y'all to review overnight. Okay, that's not fair to either party. But what are the things that are important? So it may be the question is, so what metrics would demonstrate those effective instruction? Mm-hmm. And she comes back with 2 or 3 and say, I think this, what do you guys think about that? Okay. May do the same thing in terms of family and community. But to help her, okay, and these are, again, just not my district, not my superintendent, okay, but think about, she wants to hear from you guys about, here's some things, what's important to you, okay? When you think about it, could it be engagement with, number of organizations in the community, or, is it a survey data point, because y'all do the survey? What is positive school culture? And be careful, this one's a tricky one. Because you can do like, well, we retained. I want to say, well, maybe you didn't want to retain everybody. You want to retain quality, okay? Some you might want to encourage elsewise. So it's being clear there. Leadership, and it may be the diversity question. So the question may be, so what evidence would you bring about sensitivity to diversity, or whatever the question is? Then that's the conversation. Does that make sense? Does that fit?
Right, but I think for me, I would still like to know, I think, to make it simple, is in these areas, because this is quite a bit, you know. So I think looking at it broadly under effective instruction, what would be one or two that you really want for me to hit hard? What is that one or two in involving families and communities that you really, positive school culture, that's what I'm thinking, but I could be wrong. So I can definitely take some notes and then come up with some type of rubric type things, but what would be something under effective instruction?
Let me ask you the question instead. For you, what does effective instruction mean? And I'm obviously not a judgment statement. I want to understand what an educated, not an educated mind, an educator's mind and a leader's mind think of when you think of effective instruction, just so I gauge myself.
It's pretty broad. I think effective instruction to me is meeting the needs of all our students, making sure that we're doing things all across everything from meeting needs of special ed, bilingual, GT, meeting the needs of the whole child also. So it's not based for me on one score, one day, one test of the star. It's making sure that it's more of a just adding value to each one. You know, let's say you come in reading at a second grade level when you're a fourth grader, that we added at least a whole year or more growth to your reading level.
So would it be fair to say that we want to see both academic and non-academic gains in a child? And then, so if that's true, if we want to show academic and non-academic gains in a child, how does the state, how does the system test our effectiveness in that? And then how would you, if you had your magic wand, show our effectiveness in that?
Well, the state measures it, and it's no longer the AIS report, it's the TAPER report. So it's measured on the TAPER report, which has a whole bunch of different measures. So that's how the state measures it.
And unfortunately, the basis of that one has a lot to do with STAR data, okay? So when I hear your question, what I think about is, and I appreciate it, you separated academic and, you didn't say this, but the SEL, okay, the social emotional learning aspect of it. So when I hear, if I were in a different district and you were asking me that question, I'd be talking to you guys about, okay, y'all know this was an unusual year. As a result of that, here are the programs we kept, and here are the programs we added. And here's the why. Because we noted that with some of our kids, blah, 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 blah. Because that's really what you want to know, is you want to know, what did I do? What's my thinking behind it? And then third, and here's what we've experienced as a result of that, okay? Knowing good and well, we're only into it like 7 months or so, okay, depending on when these came on. So it gives you some data points about what I'm seeing. The other thing, particularly on the SEL, that is major since the pandemic has started. I'm going to tell you, we haven't even hit the tip of the iceberg on that. Because when these kids come back, okay, back to a normal, regular year, there are going to be triggers, all kinds of triggers. And so how are we preparing? And the state has provided some resiliency programs. The district, I know, has been providing some things, so those I think are important because they weren't there a little over a year ago. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm. Yes.
So is that the kind of thing that matches for you? Is that what?
The answers, for me, the answers to those questions are the things that you would want to forget. Right? That would show us, that would allow us to gauge your, that would allow us to gauge your effectiveness and efficiency in the job.
Okay.
If we're trying to figure out how do we define KPIs for effective instruction. I guess from the other side of it, if I'm a parent, which I am, and I'm having a third child.
Oh, congratulations.
Thank you. 7 months in. If I'm a parent, right, trying to find the pathway onto Judson, I only have a couple of data points to look at, right, which is the scorecard that the state gives us, that we ourselves tout. But what else, right? So.
But as a parent, once you've decided the campuses that your kid is going to be, then you want to hone in on how is that campus doing.
Yep, for sure. For sure.
The climate, yeah.
The facilities. You kind of want to look at, not just scores, but, the campus in general, the facilities, the climate.
Sure. And I think, and y'all are absolutely right, I think those kind of fall in, when I think of this in my head, they kind of fall into others, right? Because we want to be able to gauge our leader based on what the public is gauging our system. That make sense? For me, sort of. There's a lot of questions before we get to an answer, so don't worry about it. Like, I know that you're trying to get down to the actual, like, well, what do you want me to put on this thing? Don't worry about that yet. I think this is a really good exercise. Because I already know she's over here worried about
What does he want me to put?
Well, because I guess I'm looking at the things that I did put last year, and I'm just trying to truly give myself in my head an example of what it would have looked, what it would be that you would want.
I think, so it's hard for, what's happening in my brain is like, first of all, I don't want this discussion ever to feel like this is us making the comment that like, you're not doing a good job, because we all think you're doing an excellent job. And so this, I think, is like, kind of the good to great discussion in my mind, so that like I'm just framing that in my thinking. And then I think too, like, I think there are some key metrics that we would all agree on are important to us. So I think like continued increases in enrollment to reflect the growth in population that is happening in our district, and I would place that under customer service. Like, that's the evidence that our customer service orientation is having the impact that we want it to. We're getting the word out about the great programs that we have, and that is resulting in increased enrollment. I think budget transparency and, moving towards a balanced budget and fiscal responsibility is a huge priority for everybody. That's like one of the things we spend the most time talking about as a board, I would say. I don't know exactly where that lives. Maybe leadership is the catch-all for that.
For which one?
For the budget, like fiscal responsibility and things like that. So,
okay.
And then for positive school culture, we have our employee survey. And so I think like developing some, and like it doesn't have to be, we'll see this much growth in my mind, but like continued growth in like morale across the staff is what I might say there. Yeah.
So the first one, effective instruction, that was the continued increase in enrollment, right?
No, that was customer service. I'm working backwards.
Sorry.
I'm working my way backwards because there's some clear ones that I can see pretty clearly in my brain, and then there's some where it does get down a rabbit hole. Like the more you know about education, the less you're convinced that like STAR is the end all be all of things, and yet that's the imperfect system that we have.
Okay.
And we are held accountable to it, and it does have very real ramifications. So, like, we have to acknowledge that in the world we live in. I think with involving families and community, I don't know that we have a system set up to measure that per se. Like, we could say, oh, attendance at committee meetings, but that only gets at like a very small portion of our actual like student and family population. And so I don't have a clear idea there.
But don't you think that would probably be surveys again?
Probably. Like, do we do a comprehensive family survey or no? Okay.
No, we don't.
Campuses do.
Campuses do.
Okay. Okay.
No, that's the employee one.
Do we have a like consistent instrument for that, or is
No,
that
each campus right now does their own. Okay. So it could just be creating one and using that as the benchmark data. Yeah.
But I think also that when we look at involving families and community, we look at all these programs that we've put on to explain what's going on, to share all the things we did for parents to learn how to help their children with virtual learning. All of that is part of family
Engagement.
Yeah. Literacy night and all those things. Those things are already there.
Right.
And then also, perhaps, do we want a general survey of the families?
It might be helpful if there was a uniform instrument that each campus would use. Maybe?
So can I interject a couple of things?
Sure.
I think so let me back up. One perspective, I think, is every time the district over this last 12 to 18 months went out to ask parents about, do you want remote? Do you want virtual? Do you want this? Folks, you went to them.
Yes.
Okay, there were a number of things. I think we may have lost that, that was happening. Those are surveys. Those have very impactful, information.
The meals and the way we distributed meals.
Right, so that's levels of engagement. I think I would separate for you guys this is about looking back. Part of the conversation is also about looking forward. So the generation of a new survey, et cetera, is more towards the future, okay? Not saying you can't do it and that you don't start now, but trying to think that you're going to do it and have some results by June to talk. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
Well, it's also going to not give you an accurate picture. It's going to give you a very skewed kind of picture. So just something to guide you in your conversation is, and part of that is there's this COVID fog about everything we've done, and until you go back and you start looking about, oh my God, well, yeah, we did do this survey, and we did ask them this, and we did check on that, and then we had to come back and say, well, never mind, now we're going to ask you this question, okay, because the agency or whatever changed. And so that communication, and do parents feel like they know what's going on in the district, to me is the bottom line. I mean, do they, in a year when everything was up in the air.
But like we started this year a weekly newsletter to the parents. I mean, we hadn't had that before, so it's a weekly newsletter.
Right. So those are the kinds of things that go, remember, each one of those is like a building block that builds that bridge in connection with the community. Because I can tell you, if all of a sudden the district stops doing it.
Oh, yeah.
But
why did you stop?
The school doesn't want to tell me anymore about what's going on. I don't know what's going on in my school. Whatever. I mean, that's what happens. So.
Can I interject? And I'm sorry, I don't know how much I should participate in this.
You're a visitor.
But if I can speak as a parent.
I don't think you can.
Okay, I'm sorry.
You're not on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
So I guess for me, I was thinking that you were going to be more specific. So for example, let's take the leadership one and the budget that, we say budget transparency goes under there. I thought you were going to say, okay, Dr. Ball, we want to make sure you put in $5 million every year. Dr. Ball, I want to make sure that you grow 2%. In enrollment. I want to make sure on the survey that you have 50.
We hold you personally, responsible for growing the district by 2%.
I just thought that that's what you wanted.
We can't be that specific
Okay.
like that.
Okay.
No, we can't.
But,
You can do a range maybe, or, you know.
okay, but the metrics then that you would like for me to focus on under the area of customer service, one of them is in the increasement of enrollment, right? Okay. The other one under leadership is you want me to focus on budget transparency.
I was just throwing stuff
Okay.
out there, so I don't want to speak on behalf of everybody.
Right.
I don't think I would want to increase budget transparency because I think we're pretty transparent about the budget if people are watching the meetings.
Right.
But I think that, and here's where, like, honestly, I personally push back a little bit and say, what are the goals that you internally with your team are holding as very, very important that match these kind of buckets that I'm throwing out here to say, like, here's what I want to be held accountable to, rather than us dictating that to you. Because I don't have enough line of sight to say, is 2% reasonable growth in the district? I don't know, to be honest. But that's why we will get like a demographic report and all of those things. And I think that you will have a clear opinion about what is ambitious but feasible over the next 5 to 10 years, and what would that look like year by year. And so, yeah, that's my 2 cents. But I'll stop talking because I've talked a lot.
One of the things that I look at is the turnover rate of teachers and staff. Because when people are happy, they don't leave. And I know, like, because I know since I've been here and since you've been here, I've noticed a big difference. Because, I mean, we used to have people leaving like rats on a sinking ship. And now I see more people staying around.
Yes, ma'am.
Now what happened last year, again, that's not some COVID, which, unfortunately, a lot of people were nervous and went on and retired or whatever they were going to do. So when I look at the personnel roster, I look at why people are leaving. They're leaving to go to another district. And I think that for you have been very concerned about that from the very beginning, and you constantly address it and adjust it.
Right.
And so I see a lot less of it, even with COVID.
So I do have a slide on mine, so thank you for asking. I didn't set it up this way, but I do. So this is mine. If you ask me, and it is very broad though, it's very broad. It's to continue to address the equity concerns, making sure that Judson ISD teachers and students have an equitable opportunity in our districts, that our students' learning experience is by far superior and enhanced. Staff experiences is by far superior and enhanced also. So to me, this probably though I'm thinking is way too broad for you. So you want me, which I haven't done yet, you want me to probably, if this is my goal, you want me to probably fine tune this and make it a little bit more specific? Okay. Measurable. Thank you. Yes, thank you. Measurable.
Yeah, I would say to me, and I said I was going to stop talking, but then I keep talking. But to me, looking at this is actually the right altitude for me as far as broad. Like, I think if you get too specific, then we get like very processy and micromanaging. But all I want you to add is like, as evidenced by, and these are the metrics we're going to hold ourselves accountable to.
Got it.
And that's the only feedback I do there.
Okay.
Like Mr. Diaz always says, we want Judson to be a destination, not just a district, not just somewhere that people, to come. We want it to be, is that the term you use? A destination district.
Right. Right. And I think, what I was going to plan, if this was okay, like in the summer, in June, what I was going to talk about is like what we're doing for ELOF, what we're doing for Converse Elementary, what we're planning for future campuses and future programs within our district to get us here. Because this means a lot to a lot of different people, whether it's the hiring of, diverse people, whether it's making sure in our district, there is still the concept that people feel that if you go to the
There's not as many resources as
right,
the north.
exactly, and that the better teachers are in the north side, and all those things we have to continuously address, because that really is a misconception. We're not hiring the best teachers just for one for one campus. So if this is something that is agreeable to the board, then I could come back at the next meeting and put the evidence by and say, these are another set of probably broad categories, but a little bit more specific.
I think you should also include, Dr. Ball, what we're doing this summer.
Okay.
Because that deals with equity too. How are we going to work at making gains for our students who we know through this year have deficits in learning? So what are those programs that we have in place there? Because that absolutely has to do with making sure that they have a superior enhanced experience.
Right.
So Jenny articulated something that I was asking earlier when I asked you, how does the state assess our effectiveness or hitting the mark? And then if you had your magic wand, what would you do, right? Because, and she articulated by saying, what are your internal goals? When I think about assessing your performance, it's kind of a synthesized approach to those two things. The things that the state requires of us and mandates, and then the things that you know from your architect position of this district that the engineering has to take over. Right? So and I'll fall back to my personal experience at work and see if this resonates at all. So I know what a healthy company looks like for me. And I know what my divisions, my sales force, I know what my marketing team, what is expected of them, but I also know the gaps and the things that we can do better. And those become like additional roles that I present to demonstrate the growth of that overarching goal, right? Which is then the overarching kind of assessment of our company's health. So I think that's where I wanted to get to, which is you're the solution architect with a solution engineering squad. So not only should you present to us the outcomes and how you've done against the hard measurements that we know are there, but then also kind of give us insight as to what you believe we should be doing as well, and how and what you did for it.
Okay.
And that's not that's a question that I think it's me articulating, like if I looked at it at the end of the year, that's what I would be looking for in a sense, or a flavor of that. So I just say that for conversation.
Okay.
Okay, you lost me.
Okay, so I'll go back to the original thing that I asked, which was, how does the state assess us? And then you, Jeanette Gall, how do you assess us? And what are the roles, the internal roles that you have, knowing, like, from her positionality of being, like, in the work every day? So what would those things be? And then what are her internal goals from her insight? And then how would she demonstrate that she hit the mark of those goals? When I get assessed at work, it's the same thing. I know what a healthy organization looks like. I know what my leadership team is going to want to see. There's a bunch of stuff that I know we have to get done that my leaders don't know about that also need to be put into the roadmap to be addressed, and then demonstrate that we got them done toward the end goal. But I'm also processing these things as I'm saying it, so that might not be very clear.
So what I hear in that is there's a future orientation in that, okay? And it's an insight into the architecture of where we're going, okay? And so as I process that, I think about things like a challenge not only this district, but every single district is facing coming into the fall, is are we going to get those pre-KKs in one spec? Okay. I mean, everybody's facing that because, and getting them back is step one. And step two, what do we do to support those first graders now that didn't come to Kinder? So part of that is, what I hear in your question is, so is that on the radar screen? I know it is. But what are we doing about it? That's what you're asking. And so I think that's a little bit different in an evaluation piece, and it may be a kind of an executive summary or something that goes with it, because I think it's what you're asking for is, I want to make sure the captain knows what the journey is, where we're headed, where the ports of call are, and and if we can't go to that one, why we're going to this one. And that's a little bit different than an evaluation piece. But guys, you can do it. I mean, there's nothing that says you can't ask those kinds of questions, because that's the value of the dialogue. Because, and this is where I'm taking a little bit of license, because what's embedded in that question is that there's high level of trust with the person that's sitting in this seat. And so it's like, I don't need to know about the grass trimming and the paint coloring and all. I mean, I know all that stuff's being taken care of. I know the budget's being taken care of. But what's your thinking in terms of, for example, just did this for me. So I'm thinking about my budget. I'm thinking about how do we, I'm always thinking two things, well, three. The first is, how do we reduce reliance on fund balance to balance our budget? Okay. The second is, how do we build our fund balance? Okay. And then third, how in the heck do we bring a budget forward in a legislative year where we have no idea what's going to happen in July or September?
July.
Of course. Okay. And with basically about 7 days from when the governor signs till the time it comes before you, we have to have a plan. So those are the three things that would be in the back of my mind to answer the question about, here are the things. Those are the guiding principles. I'm not speaking for the district. I don't want to put words in your mouth. But those are three major things. So that that goes percentages, and that's where I'd be asking your question where we started about trend data. So over the last 5 to 10 years, how have we reduced the reliance on fund balance? How have we built fund balance? How have we gone along with our budgeting, real close or whatever? That to me is a stronger predictor, because you're looking at a 5 to 10 year. That takes in, God forbid, pandemics and snowmageddons and all that other stuff that's happened. But to me that falls a little different, because it's a little harder to evaluate, and that's where I think your comments become more important as a board than a rating. Okay. Again, sorry. I get off.
When would that type of dialogue happen? Would that happen in January?
I guess the hardest part for me is I thought that those dialogues were happening, but I have to do a better job at having those dialogues, because, for example, I thought that I had shared with the board, every year we've put something in place to be able to increase our enrollment. And I thought I shared that with the board. We started with all-day 4-year-olds, then all-day 3-year-olds. So I thought that those dialogues were happening.
They did.
But,
Yeah,
okay.
I don't want you to misconstrue what I'm saying.
Okay.
Because I started this party, I think. I don't want you to misconstrue that. I don't want you to misconstrue what I'm saying, and I think there's an absence of it.
Okay.
It goes back to what Jenny said, which is, we get it from you. How do we increase it, make it stronger, and then be able to ensure that it gets leveraged to the best of its ability?
To the what?
To the best of its ability. Like,
okay.
It's getting done, yes, but is there a stronger iteration of it?
Okay. And stronger iteration, do you mean by that sharing that information with more people? Is that what you mean by stronger iteration?
I don't know.
Okay.
I think this is part of the exercise, right? That I don't have a solution for it, that it's asking the questions to see, can we engineer something stronger, or what's missing from it?
And I guess the reason this is so hard for me is because I like solutions. So I'm walking out of here, not that I'm leaving right now, but if I were to walk out of here right now, I would still be really confused to say, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to change yet. And to me, then that's a big disappointment, because I don't want to disappoint you guys. So I need to know what exactly, and I don't mind providing more information, doing it differently. I just need to know in that direction to go in. So, and then when you said all this, I'm thinking maybe I should sit during the evaluation, and I always present. Maybe I should just let y'all ask me questions?
So, hang on, guys.
Renee?
Sorry, I just want to make sure that we're all hearing the same thing.
Okay.
So, the process for the evaluation, I'm going to put just right over here. We're going to come back to it.
Okay.
Because I do think that's an extremely important piece of how, and you get to choose how you do your process. I'm going to come back to something I thought I heard common agreement on. Using this kind of a STEM as, Dr. Ball, can you take and then give us as evidenced by, and bring it back for us to go, yes, no, whatever, or okay, that makes sense to us, okay? Was a starting point for you guys. Did I hear that correctly? Yeah. And did I hear correctly that that was doable?
Oh, absolutely, yes.
Okay. What I would suggest to you guys is take this STEM and apply it in a couple of the other areas. You could do that. I mean, it's almost the same thing for instruction, really. When you think about it, students' learning experience is, I would say, effective and enhanced.
Right, so like you're saying, like effective instruction evidenced by.
Evidenced by. And you bring forward back to the script, here's because it gives the insight. Here's what I'm looking at, here's what I'm measuring, and 2 or 3 points. I would not.
But Ed, that's the confusing part, because I thought I did do that, so the board.
I'm not sure I'm looking at the same thing you are, so I apologize. Sorry.
One that has her name at the top.
Oh.
This is my true evaluation. It's confidential. Yeah.
I'm not leaving with that. Okay, sorry.
It's okay. So that's why I'm not trying to be picky. I just really want to change what needs to be changed.
I don't have this one, sorry. Okay.
So when I did effective instruction, and if it's saying, okay, Jeanette, you didn't list enough of them, I can list more.
Okay, I don't think it's a more issue. I think there's, is it?
Okay, a
yeah.
focus issue.
Yeah.
Okay.
So maybe it's even, what are of that list of 6, what are the 1 or 2 priorities that you're focusing on? So actually, it's actually what I'm hearing is maybe less.
Okay, I can do less. I mean, I'm not that I'm saying I'm going to do less, but I'm saying you want me to focus on something. But is the board want me to focus on something specific?
I'm sorry. What I heard the night we discussed this was that some people were concerned because we did not have student performance data to direct back as part of this, and that they wanted to know what else we could use to support the evaluation so that we can truly credit Dr. Ball with everything that she's done. And that's not what's happening now. So if I misunderstood, I need somebody to tell me that. But that's definitely what was said in our meeting that night.
Because I could add benchmark data. We have lots of benchmark data. I could add that if that's.
I'm not saying that going in a direction like this is bad. I just want to be sure we address the concern for why we originally put this in this training tonight.
Oh, to be honest,
Is that
I didn't know
why
why
we
we
did
put this in this training tonight, and I
Develop some more goals towards that end. Yes, and that's why we're doing this.
I didn't either. I'm confused about why we're talking about this tonight.
I'm a little frustrated. Because we're bird walking all around, we're trying to answer y'all's specific concerns, and we're going all over for something that we don't need to.
Yeah, I stand by what I said that night.
That's what you said, you just told us.
Yeah, that.
Okay, so you want more benchmark data? Okay.
So hearing that reframes the discussion completely for me, Suzanne, because like, A, I didn't understand why this was on the agenda, and I actually moved over to Mr. Diaz and asked like, why is this on, why is this one?
Yeah, but I didn't know we were gonna address it here. Or I didn't know that my comment was the trigger for this.
Because we said we could develop some more goals.
Right, okay.
On the evaluation to address your concern. Okay, all right.
Reminding you what I said.
I'm like, what? Am I the only one who was there?
I think that's absolutely right. And what I said earlier, also, we should just have them occur a lot more frequently so we can see trending, so we can have a better understanding of real-time health of the organization. I think those things are awesome.
Okay.
And I didn't mean for that statement to uproot everything.
Okay. Okay.
But she doesn't want to let us down.
Right.
So everything's important to her.
I think, in my opinion, leaving this instrument in place for this year is the thing that we should be looking at, because everything's going to change next year when we go back to whatever the new normal looks like. I think absolutely going forward, addressing equity is a huge issue. We've talked about that as a board, how important that is for us to make sure that equity, you look at the actions that we've taken. But if we add that definition of the data piece, then I think we can use this now and then work on the next year something that addresses this a little more closely, including the equity. Does that make sense?
Yes, I understand what you're saying. We can't change anything.
I don't think you
Okay, wrap this up.
Because I think what might have triggered it, I'm not there, so I leave the closed session, is that this information was old. So there's always all this data that's put in there, okay? But and the reason I say it was old is because we didn't have the accountability last year. But if not, you would have had new information on everything, to look at everything from academic achievement, growth, graduation rates, LPAC, you would have had it by sub-pops, you would have had, you did have it, but you had it from a year. Right.
So we have the evidences that she gave us to support the evaluation.
Yeah, but again, that's data from her very first year with us. When she came in July, and truly, how much change and effect could she put in place that year?
Yeah.
So I know she did a lot. I'm not saying you didn't.
No.
But truly, the measure would have been the following year,
Right.
after what you had put in place. Then we
Right.
have a comparison. We didn't have any of
Because
that.
by then we see
And
the
then this year
results.
it's all going to be mishmash that we can't use. So what are we going to look at instead? So that we can give her credit for all the hard work that she's doing.
So I will put in more benchmark data. I will put in more attendance, actual data. I will put in more enrollment data. Somebody said the retention of teachers. I will put in the more turnover. Turnover. And I think we might have already said enrollment, so I could definitely do that. So sure, you basically, I think, would like a data component that we will be currently using, that's data that we do have that's current. Does that sound a little better?
Yeah, and I think we were having, I thought we were having a bigger picture conversation, to be honest, about like our governance as a board. This is fine, especially in a year like this year, like all we're gonna have is qualitative evidence, and I would like to have some okay, how do we know?
Sure.
Cause yeah, 2 years ago data is crap. But, or it's not crap, but it's not telling us, what is the situation now, and I'm sure we do have data sources about that. I think for me, like, it's more maybe the conversation I wanted to have and I thought we were having was about this document, which is really a strong foundation.
Yes.
And then what is the next level of that, where we're setting goals for the long term, you know, when things not go back to normal, because I don't know if normal even exists, but like, what is the vision we have for the future of our district, and what is going to show us the evidence that we've gone where we set out to go.
Right.
And so, like, I think that's where maybe lines got crossed, is like, I think we were having two completely different conversations. And so, yeah.
I could show you, in June, I could show you the beginning of the year data, the middle of the year, and the end of the year. So we could look at all those 3 data points and see, okay, how did our students go? We could pull it even further down to say, okay, this is the data for our students that were in the majority face-to-face compared to the students that were online, and look at that. So we could definitely pull some things. We can look at things and say, okay, how many of our students in our CTE program got certificates this year compared to last year? Just some different points of data. I can do that.
I was going to say CTE, that'd be another measurable.
Yes.
How many of those kids got certification?
Right. We could look at TELPAS data also, so we could definitely look at that. We could even look at how many students this year took advanced courses compared to other years. So we could definitely look at those types of things. We could look at our discipline data too.
And I think like perhaps where Mr. Diaz was coming from, and I know that I can speak for this myself, is like, I think we as a board can set up processes, or we as a team, not just the board, but you too, like setting up processes for how do we look at that on an ongoing basis, so it's not a huge data dump in June every year, because obviously we're going to get student outcomes data in June, but like, how are we like just monitoring the ongoing progress towards those goals?
Okay.
Once we get a better sense of like, okay, here's how we're going to measure it, and those kinds of things, and set up like, okay, on this month we're gonna look at this data set that might be relevant at that time, and on this month we're gonna look at this data set. So in the same way that maybe we have the construction report,
yes,
we're having some sort of like consistent reporting time where it's like, let's look at X, Y, or Z. You know, like we're gonna look at priority of involving family and community, and we're gonna report out on how we're doing towards that priority. This is just a suggestion, it's not a mandate, and I would want the rest of the board to chime in, but sure. I think that's...
We can definitely do something like that. I have this, I didn't bring it with me, but one of the things that I use every single year is Region 20 gives us a calendar, and it says, for this month, these are the things that you should be focused on. And then for next month, start already looking. So I could develop something like that for the whole year and to be able to do that. Yes.
And then I think once we have a full board, I think after June, because, you know, budget
right.
and all this, then we should have another retreat or workshop to come back and look at. How are we going to come back and develop this for the next good to great? Because I do think that, you know, if we talk about this as our strategic plan, everything we're doing should be aligned to this.
Right.
And I think that would be fairly easy to transfer big portions of this over to here and then create the things that are not there.
It maps directly onto that. She used those headings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And even as we set our agendas.
Okay.
To use our strategic plan.
Okay.
To make sure that we're staying in alignment with what we have on our agenda is aligned in the plan.
We can change that and add that part to it. Absolutely. Okay.
Way that
we're in a stronger position. I thank you for this. I apologize for the confusion. I didn't know that comment had kicked us off. I just thought it was a normal part of human training.
No.
Okay.
So Renee, just to your comment, some districts
we'll put after an agenda item,
Mhm.
like strategic plan, goal one,
Yes.
goal two, whatever,
Mhm.
that's a way to.
Yes, that's what I was thinking. Mhm.
Simply do that, so.
As I've gone to conferences and I've seen how different districts develop their agenda.
Mhm.
For some districts, it was necessary for them to do it that way, you know?
Yep, yep. So.
But it's just another way to do it.
Okay, so I hope that y'all have not all seen this video, but let me make sure I'm on here. Yes, but this was an excellent video that I use all the time to really look at the equity lens. And let me see if I can get my mouse to work here. Oh, no. Oh, here we go.
Three, 2, 7, 9.
That is correct.
How did they do this?
Have y'all seen this one?
Welcome to today's academic challenge. You may only use what's on your table. There will be 3 rounds, and the questions will get harder. What is the largest animal living today? Team A.
Blue whale.
Team B.
Blue whale.
That is correct. What is the square root of 144?
12. 12.
Correct again.
India.
India. Neil Armstrong.
Neil Armstrong.
William
William
Shakespeare.
Shakespeare.
Correct. We are tied. For round 2, we're going to give both teams some additional resources.
Okay.
Who was the first president to live in the White House?
John Adams.
That is correct.
Oh my God, bro. Come on.
What does the acronym LCD stand for?
Wow. Right? Liquid Crystal Display.
Correct.
How did they do this?
Go in and just go in and
Sargasso Sea.
That's correct.
8 minutes and 20 seconds.
Correct.
Samuel Morse.
Correct.
Denver, Colorado. Santa Fe, New Mexico. And Salt Lake City, Utah.
That is correct. Let's pull back the curtain.
Are you kidding me? That's so not cool. I'm offended that they had such an unfair advantage. It was way too fast.
Please have your team captain open the envelope on the table.
70% of teachers assign homework requiring access to the internet, and yet 5 million households with school-age children do not have high-speed internet service at home. That just puts 5 million other people at a disadvantage, which is not okay.
Nearly 50% of students say they have been unable to complete a homework assignment because they did not have access to the internet or computer.
I didn't know that the percentage was so high. Everything he does is in the computer. So if he didn't have access to it, he wouldn't have a chance.
Someone may not be pulling the grade not because they're not smart, they just don't have access to what all the other kids have.
Oh, that's so great.
So to me, this video is very powerful because we have to make sure our students have every advantage. To me, this is something that I take very seriously.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ed. Because I think that this is our students that don't have a lot of the things. And it's also doing a paradigm shift for our teachers to understand it's not because they're lazy. You know, a lot of times people are quick to say that. And when I say teachers, I should say all our staff, to understand that what we go home to at night is not what every student goes home to at every night. So for me, this goes back to the focus that I had shared with you at the earlier, is making sure that our students have the best of the best services. And the ones that don't, making sure we're taking care of the whole child to make sure that they do. Comments on the video? Thoughts?
Powerful. Have our teachers seen it?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Very powerful.
Well, and it's more than just internet access.
Absolutely,
It's
yes.
access to food, it's access to parents who can assist them at home. It's access to the ability to be a child and not be an adult at home when parents, for whatever reason, have to work and all that. Not every child has the same, as you said, access to every, basic necessities of life. And so, we talk a whole lot about what does equity mean, what is fair, all that stuff. And I've seen so many of the different diagrams, the standing on the boxes kind of thing. But what's really fair is when you take the dang fence away. And then nobody has to have a box. And nobody has to be higher than anybody else. So what is it we can do to take all those things that are interfering that we have control over? How do we do that for our students? And so that's, for me,
right. And that's the work that we have to work on.
Well, I've seen more of it accomplished in the last 2 years, or 2 years, than was going on before. And, without naming names, because we were all at the meeting, I'm thinking about the people that you brought to our attention, those schools on my end of the district. I'm always raising sad about my end of the district. But when I think about that, I appreciate the fact that you're in there, not that you weren't, but that you are seeing what I'm seeing and what I talk about. And those issues are being addressed now, and I appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you. So the next thing that I wanted to talk about was we've been going through our long-range planning process. So we've been having lots of great discussions, and I wanted you to see these pictures. These are some of the pictures of the discussions that we've been having and truly trying to visualize what is our possibility. Because a lot of times there's things that you can't even visualize because you don't know what you don't know. You don't know what it looks like at other places. So the committee has looked at a lot of these pictures. These are some of the things that the committee has looked at and I'll show you some pictures in regards to the cave, the campfire, watering hole, laboratory, and mountaintop, making sure that our buildings really are looking differently to be able to engage our students. So some of the things that we've talked about is they're almost wanting the buildings to look like a Starbucks, Google type environment, very different than what we've seen before. So this is the cave look, where it's areas within the building that you can use for planning, working together, very different from what current buildings look like. This one is the campfire type building space, where it's still a smaller space where people are coming together and working together in smaller groups. Then the watering hole is that is referred to, where it's a social space where students are using, and every single space is being maximized. Look at under the stairs there, the stair steps are being utilized. So really utilizing every piece of the building. Then another component is really having those hands-on spaces for the students to be able to use, the science labs, the creative ways that you can use those spaces, whether it's for STEM things, but giving the students the opportunity to do hands-on activities. Spaces where students have the opportunity to present and share their ideas. We want to be able to make our students be collaborative, but at the same time independent learners. We want them to know how to work as a group, but at the same time be able to be independent. So sharing your ideas. And these are just some beautiful spaces that the committee has looked at. So some of the categories for school spaces, things that the committee is talking about is teaching and learning spaces, resource and research spaces, small and large gathering spaces, performance spaces, activity spaces, outdoor engagement spaces. So just some different things that the committee has been talking about. Looking at this, look at the furniture. It's not the desks that we certainly sat in when we were in school. Right?
A little arm on the side.
Yep. So very different. Looking at things, but looks beautiful again. Different things that could engage our students. Look at those little ones sitting in those chairs. They would love that. To me, it's the best way I could describe it is Starbucks, Google type work environments. Colorful, engaging. Look at those other spaces, just amazing. Yes. A lot in the area. Look at those. I mean, that to me was so impressive, especially the one, the bottom right-hand side. My right, those exercise bicycles. I'm sure they have a special name. And look at the tables. Just some amazing things for our students. Making sure you can utilize all the outdoor spaces. So just some characteristics of things that the committee has focused on, things that are inviting and engaging, empowering student-owned, flexible spaces, flexible scheduling, mobile furnishings, high-tech, high connectivity, shared resources, visibility and transparency, exploration, curiosity, and health and wellness. One of the things that has come about is really making sure that we're teaching our kids to be healthy and well. So the activity that the team did is this these dot circles. So I wanted y'all to see, when you see these dots, if you were a community member, you had a yellow dot, a principal, a green dot, an employee, a blue dot. So the activity was to go around looking at all these different pictures of some amazing buildings and which one called out to you. And you can, like on this board, you can clearly see how this space right here really called out to everybody. This space right here and this space right here really called out. And they're just two beautiful libraries. This space right here, you can see that these were some of the most popular ones right here. So each committee member got to give their input and share what their preference was at looking at different things. We don't have a lot of these, so it was good to give them a visual. We've taken them to our newest campus, which is Where the Oaks. And things are constantly changing. Where the Oaks is beautiful. It's gorgeous. But there's still been some other ones that, have some different aspects to it that we can learn and grow from those. Questions, comments about any of this information? Thoughts? Mr. Diaz and Ms. Ramirez have, Ms. Rodriguez, sorry. So sorry.
Live on YouTube.
Sorry. I'm so sorry. They've been representing the board, so they've been at the committee meetings, and we have another one coming up on April the 19th, but there's still a lot more work to do. So just wanted to share some of the work. Anything y'all would like to share from the meetings?
I think what I would share is that I really value being in conversation with like multiple different people. Principals have their perspectives, parents have their perspectives, other employees have their perspectives, and putting that all together has been powerful so far.
Yeah, the other aspect of that is that even though we have, these cards here representing facilities, the conversation really is super robust on what does Judson look like or need to look like in the future, and nothing is off the table, and we, by design, make sure that every member of the committee understand that. So we talk about instruction, we talk about the facility, we talk about every aspect of it in order to be able to synthesize the levers that we have and need to build, that we need to rebuild in order to get to that vision. It's on.
Okay. We just can't hear you. You're okay. We'll turn it up in here. Thank you
So that's the other aspect of it, that it's a robust conversation, and we, by design, wanted to make sure that nothing is off the table.
And the heavy work is still to come, because one of the, and I hope I've shared this with the group, is that we're going to come up with this huge list of all the things that we want to do. Could be a $500 million, bond, but we know that that's not feasible for us. So then we'll have to eventually start to whittle it away and say, these are the things that, are priority first and that we can do. So there's still a lot of more meetings and a lot more to come, but I wanted to kind of give everybody a little glimpse into that. So budget. Wanted to spend a little bit of time on our agenda. We did put on there budget. So there's been some articles and some things made that I wanted us to have a conversation about that in case anybody wants to ask me any questions. So recently there was this article in the San Antonio. I'm going to start here, okay? If you all have seen it and you want to pass it around. And then there was this other one, and I just made a copy of it. I don't know if you've already seen it. I don't know if you want a copy or anything. This one's in the San Antonio. San Antonio Express. And it talks a lot about the ESSER funding. And some individuals are under the impression that school districts got all this bukus of money. So we have not gotten this money. So I wanted to share with you, because I know other districts have put in the newspaper their projected amount. So if we were to get this money, we possibly could get up to $62 million. But it also is very clear on there that it is up to each state to decide how and if you get it. So I just wanted to share this information because it's been out in lots of articles, and I don't want anybody to think that we've had this. We have not gotten this money. We hope we do. So if we do, this will be a conversation that we have with the board and if this happens, to say, maybe we should do teacher class size reduction. Maybe we should do more summer programs. Maybe we should enhance our after-school programs. Maybe we should do more tutoring programs, additional RTI teachers, additional social-emotional support, assistant principals at every campus or more. So the list could go on and on of all the great things that we could do. But yes. But we also have to keep in mind that this funding would be for 2 years. So then we would have to have that conversation. So I just wanted to put this out here to see if there was any questions or comments in regard to the ESSER funding.
And this is essentially the funding, and I think I know the answer to this, but just to clarify, this is the funding that the federal government passed on to states to give to school districts.
Yes.
The state of Texas has decided not to distribute that to school districts, but to put it into its own general fund.
Right. And the
Texas and New York are the only two
Yes.
states.
And what happened the first go around, the first ESSER, it was basically a supplant. So they took away what they should have given us and given us this, but they didn't give us any new money. So Ed, I don't know if there's any new information on SR funding that Region 20 might know about?
No, I just for clarity's sake, so the truth of the matter is that Judson has received how much of the ESSER funds?
Zero?
Zero.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, because people will focus on the 62 million and go, well, I know you didn't get that, you got 30.
No,
You got
no, zero.
Okay. And to just go a little further than what you said is, what the state did was reduce the state's portion of the funding of schools. So they used it to, yes, supplant their obligations to
Right,
schools.
using federal
So,
funds.
and the concern is that that will continue. And that's a lot, that's one district.
Right. That's just Judson.
Just Judson.
And so what we can ask our people who are listening to the meeting and our employees and anybody who has anything to do with public education is to contact their state legislators, contact the governor's office, contact the assistant governor, the lieutenant governor, and tell them that they want this money to go out to the schools. Because it's going to have to be pressure from the public for them to have their feet held to the fire to give the money where the intention was. So if you're listening, contact your people.
Yeah, because they'll have no problem raising taxes. They're working on property taxes now. Ridiculous.
Any other questions or comments about SR funding?
You know, I just read an article today, and so I was gonna ask you guys, you know, what's going on with just two states,
Yep.
New York and Texas.
Yes, it's sad.
It's Austin. That's the holdup.
That's, the governor.
The governor.
So I wanted to share my closing video with you. So I will play the video first, and then I will talk about the video. This one?
Right.
Got it.
On your mark.
The 600-meter underway. Heather Doherty of Minnesota finished second this event a year ago. She is in lane 4.
And Doherty is probably going to be your favorite. She actually won the NCAA championships in 2006 in the 800, but she only won one Big Ten championship in the 2 years.
3 laps in this event, 600 meters, 3 times around the 200-meter track here at the field house.
What a bold move by Fallon. She's looking very confident, and the Penn State runner is just running amazing today. She did win her heat in the 400, but ended up taking 4th overall.
That's Fondor moving into the lead, the sophomore from Penn State. Doherty running second.
Doherty last year scored 23 points for the Golden Gophers in their Big Ten championship, so they're really relying on getting a lot of points from her this weekend, and she's just coming back Fondor now in the home stretch, heading into the bell lap.
I've watched this a million times, and I still react like that.
Lucky she wasn't injured.
Her teammate just went to the front, though, so they may be able to recover from that. And Doherty is flying down the backstretch.
She is catching up.
She is going to catch Fondor, and she may catch the leader.
Wow.
She's got fun.
This is a gutsy effort by Doherty. Gets a pull it off. She's moving to third. Doherty coming down the stretch from the outside. Doherty coming on strong. Doherty all the way. Doherty. Wow, unbelievable.
That is...
She's not even breathing on.
So I share this video, and this video is what I closed last week's principals meeting up with because we have fallen. We have fallen. Whether we say it's because of COVID, the snowstorm, different things, we have fallen. But it is now time, and for some people it's very hard, it is now time to pick ourselves up and run this race to win, and win our race just like she did in this video. So to me, this video signifies what we've been through, and we've been using and saying, and COVID is very real, and a lot of tragic things have happened, but it is now time to pick ourselves up and make sure that we win this race for our kids. So I will take any questions or comments or suggestions that you would like to give me.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
Thank you.
I just want to say that I think this is the time of year when people are tired.
Mm-hmm.
And even more so this year because of all the difficult circumstances that we've had. But I know our staff. I know our principals, our bus drivers, every single person who has something to do with Jackson ISD, and the heart that they have for our students.
Mm-hmm.
And I commend them for their hard work. And I just want them to know, and I think everybody here would agree with me, that we appreciate so much what they're doing. And we want them to know that we have their backs and that we support them and that we value every single thing that they do for our kids.
Absolutely.
And you are always at the top of the list.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Diaz?
He better not.
I'm all good.
Here's your iteration.
Thank you, Dr. Ball.
Thank you.
Well said, well done. Thank you, Edvara, again for helping us complete our team of 8 training. We didn't know exactly how we were gonna, pardon me?
Yeah, you gotta go 3 hours.
Okay.
Yeah.
We
Okay.
still have
Okay.
more to go.
Yes, sorry. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No. It's okay. I just wanted to make sure. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Yes.
I was going by this.
So, but along that line, if it's okay with you, let's take like a 10-minute break.
Yes.
Because we've been at it.
Okay.
And if you'd like to take a look at any of these
Mhm.
while you're doing that, that's fine too. But let's take a 10-minute break and then we'll come back.
Okay. All right. Sorry about that.
That's okay. Just wanted to make sure.
Okay, all right, thanks. Thanks, okay, okay, all right. Okay, okay, very good, very good. Thank you.
And you can make it custom.
Oh, you're ready to start? Let me get her to turn the microphone.
Okay.
I'm getting a little tired of Eric Cleveland. Senator Cuellar, Congressman Cuellar's guy.
Okay, we're back on.
I've got 8 million
We're back.
invitations to this one event that they're doing, and I'm like, I'm not going to an in-person event, thank you.
Yeah, so we're ready to go, so we're back on. Okay, so just for you to know, the mics are back on. So in the last section here, just wanted to spend a few minutes with you guys talking about, again, in the spirit of leadership, some of the thoughts to think about. And one of those is, so talk to me about the board self-evaluation, okay? So we're not going to ask for answers, but the first question is, when did you do your last board self-evaluation? Okay?
The board did do it. I'm just trying to remember if it was maybe 2 months ago, maybe January.
I think that's the point of the question. We don't do enough.
Say it again?
Is that the point of the question, that we don't do enough?
No, I'm not saying, no. So first of all, let me be real clear. This is a general question, not a reflection of anything this evening, okay? Or at any point in the past. So typically a board evaluation, self-evaluation is done annually, okay? And so to plant the seed of, there really is kind of a sequence to this, and that sequence is board self-evaluates, then evaluates the superintendent, who evaluates administrators, who evaluate teachers. I mean, you see the process that falls accordingly. There is no formal instrument. The board can choose what kind of instrument they wish to use for board self-evaluation. And actually, some of the questions that y'all were asking earlier, I mean, you could just have, the value is in the conversation. okay? So for example, if you were to look at the strategic plan and say, okay, so this first section on effective instruction, as we think about our role as a board in supporting that, what things have we done? So you're reflecting on that. These are things we celebrate. These are things we think we really want to work better at or whatever. That's really what it's for. It's just to give you opportunity to pause and to think about some of those issues. It could be, for example, on the community engagement. Are we where we want to be with community engagement? Or are there some things we want to focus on this next year? And again, it's just the value of the conversation and having that, okay? So let me just stop at that point. Does that make sense? Is that kind of what y'all have done? Have you done something different? Or I'll just open it up.
I would say that what we have done has been more perfunctory than it has been deep conversations leading to change. But I do like the idea of tying what we do as a board back to our strategic priorities. If we're asking Dr. Ball to look at certain key qualities that go along with those, then we should as well. How are we as a board supporting her efforts, supporting the campus efforts, and how can we get better at what we do? Because that's what this is all about, right? The good to great kind of thing.
Right.
And so I do like that idea. I'm trying to remember what the instrument looks like. As I said, it's a little perfunctory in the past. In fact, I'm not sure.
You did it in October.
Okay.
I don't remember a lot of discussion.
No, we just did it on our own.
So, yeah, I think we did it on our own, and then, but as you say, the conversation is what's important, because what I see that we're doing well may not be what everybody else thinks that we're doing well. And so, all those different, as Rafa calls them, lenses, are going to make for a better whole.
Well said. Who else?
I frankly don't remember
I was just about to say, I was like, I don't remember either.
I don't remember the instrument. That's not to say that there was just nothing, and probably to Suzanne's point, there's nothing that required that we dig deep.
We definitely did not have communication about it.
Okay.
We just did our own and turned it in.
And so again, this is an opportunity. So any conversation you have moving forward the next time is improvement. So really, I think part of that is, and one thing I would ask you to think about and consider, you don't need to come to consensus on a rating, because you'll spend time doing that instead of spending time talking about, well, you know, Suzanne, when you said we did, I totally forgot about that. And it caused me to think about this or whatever. And I wonder, should we think about, as we're going into this next year, doing, it's that value and that give and take exchange, that where that reflection, and you begin actually planting some seeds for the board's growth, okay? The only cautionary tale, because sometimes it's an easy thing to do, is to turn here and say, well, Dr. Ball, don't you think we were doing a really good job on that? Okay? And of course, since y'all all evaluate her, she's going to say, well, of course you did. Well, you know, it's outstanding, exceptional, okay? Because it's self-evaluation, okay? And I think the other aspect of it is, it's important, I think it's also a form of transparency with the public and with the staff. So again, as you're thinking about that, and just some considerations along that line. The other component typically of team building is the board operating procedures. So, and I think y'all revisited that one recently. Okay. Okay.
Well, I've got that it was updated February the 10th, 2020.
Okay.
So we have been back.
So it's a year ago?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So again, that's always a good one with the lens of looking at, so what happened over the last year that we need to adjust or modify as a result of that, okay? Anything that happened, is this still working for us? Is this not still working for us, or whatever the case may be, okay? One of the things that I'm taking away from tonight that I think is pretty critical is the fact that y'all are really keeping one foot, okay, the little toe over here in what's happening right now, because that's important, and that accountability, but the big foot over here in where do we need to be going, okay? That long-range planning is really significant. It's easy to get lost in a pandemic year because, I mean, things need to happen, 8, 12, and 4, okay, on a typical day. And those could be changing. So again, I think with an eye towards the future is real important. So looking at the crystal ball, obviously there are lots of things coming. The ESSER funding, okay, funding in general. The legislature is ending here in May. More than likely, if we're lucky, we'll only have one special session. I have a feeling we'll have more than one. And so, that always prolongs things. So we'll see how that ends up. I do think, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Ask a question about that. So if I'm remembering back 2 years ago when the last budget cycle happened with the legislative session, and I think that one did end more or less concurrently with when we needed to pass the budget. So we weren't in a situation where there were like multiple special sessions that were extending this out. But do we have the possibility of, like, I'm sure we have to pass the budget on June 30th, like, come hell or high water, like that's our deadline. But then if the legislature then comes out with something after that, we have some flexibility or obligation to change that?
Yes, we would amend it, so, let me set this up. Yes. Testing, yes, we would amend it. So the last legislative session, what happened was that they gave a very specific amount of money that had to go to salaries. So we did the best we could with that information that we had at that time, and then we went back and amended it, and that's why the teachers got that additional incentive.
So the session cannot end without them passing a budget. Okay. That's what's critical. So because the whole school finance thing was redone on the last legislative session, it's okay. The last legislative session, that's what made it so difficult for the districts. They had to go with the best information they had, pass it, and then once the dust settled, because the agency didn't even know. They just said, truthfully, I'm telling you, this is exactly the words they said. On good faith effort, just do what you can and we'll come back and help you later. I mean, that was, and you know how well that goes with the concrete sequential chief financial officers, that could have caused them a heart attack, just that phraseology. But there are so many issues now with redistricting and those kinds of things, and we still don't have enough information to do that, which will more than likely be a special session. So, yes. The other consideration is...
Sorry, I'm all about the questions.
That's okay, sure, no problem.
When you say redistricting, you mean redistricting the legislative districts, not the school districts, okay?
Yes and yes. Okay, so two-pronged question. So the bigger question is the whole state, okay? Then that triggers something that could potentially happen with the district, but that will happen much further down the road, okay? And your legal team is already on that. They're just waiting for the first domino to fall, okay?
Yeah, we had our first meeting with ours just last month.
Yep. So the work has already started in the background in terms of that. The other consideration, and again, this isn't just, it's just more or less being aware on the radar screen, is what happens with the students in vaccinations. Okay, so We don't know, but again, it's one of those things where it's going to, we're waiting, all of a sudden we're going to get word and then we're going to have to make it happen. Those kinds of issues. And so it'll be very interesting in terms of how that's going to happen. There'll be lots of questions and issues like, do they have to have them or not? And how does this fit in terms of the other vaccination protocols for kids that we already have in place, and all kinds of, and availability. So we know that at this stage, Pfizer has recommended to FDA that their vaccine is usable, I believe, age 12 and above. Okay, so that's the first of them. So that means that already opened.
Who's going to pay for it?
I'm sorry?
For the testing part of it also, who's going to pay for it? Right now, we've had this grant.
Oh, yes. And so the city has continued some portion of it, but yes, there's still the legislature and who's continuing to pay for those. So there's those kinds of issues that continue as well.
Sorry, I'm all about the questions.
They're good questions.
I'm curious about all the things. So I know we got some, what was I going to say? We got some vaccine allocations for district employees.
Yes, ma'am.
And is there any talk or advocacy happening for, our seniors are eligible for the vaccine right now. Is there any role that the government is saying the schools can play in distribution of those vaccines for the older students who are eligible now? Or?
Right, so we don't have anything official on that part. So everything that has been communicated with us has always just been to employees. So I know that Ursula and Dr. Fields, I constantly have them on the lookout to see if there's ever going to be that opportunity. We want to be in line, but I certainly don't have any official information on that yet.
So nothing has come out from either DISHES or from TEA directing the schools in any way. Of course, those that are 18 are eligible now. Actually, I believe 16 and above are, they can go to if they can get the vaccine, they can go to Wonderland or to Alamo Dome or any place like that, but it would not be school directed yet. Okay, and that's I had a conversation with somebody from the agency about that. That is my concern, is that we're not going to get a lot of time to turn that around. So the sooner they begin having conversations and involving the boots on the ground, because we're the people closest to it that know how to do that, or else it's kind of like, things sometimes come out and you're going, what were they thinking? Kids don't do that or whatever. We don't do it that way. There are more efficient ways to do that. So, good question. All right. Anything else? So here's with your permission, what I'd like to do. I do have one more video that I would like to share with you, and it's kind of interesting because it fits in. I wrote myself a note here somewhere, but it's so secure I don't even know where it is. It hits one of the ideas that was in the strategic plan. I'm sorry, hang on just a second. It's under customer service for me. So the other thing is that will cause us to end early. I am so sorry. I apologize for that. However, here's what I know will happen as early as our next meeting. Y'all are going to be coming back and talking about your suggestions and that. So that really is, and you don't need me for that, but that continues to do that work. So in order to honor that work, we'll just add that on to tonight, because that's going to clearly take you a couple of minutes to work through that and come to that understanding. So if there are no objections to that, I want to show you the video, and then we'll.
Appreciate that.
Is that okay? Hopefully it won't take me 20 minutes to get this going again. Hang on.
Oh, there we go. I think this will come up. Hopefully we won't have any ads in it.
Only pay for what you
But of
need.
course we do have ads. Sorry.
I just said that.
Oh my God, I was running around crying.
I will never forget that cup of coffee. Thank you. Well, a couple of years ago, I was traveling when my schedule worked out on Christmas Eve. I thought the airport was going to be a zoo, so I got there a couple hours early. It wasn't crowded at all, so for me, that means coffee. So I get down into my Terminal D, and I see the green sign. And when I travel these days, I always wear earbuds, so I'm rocking out to Coldplay. And I see the sign, I get in line, and there's one woman in front of me, and she's having a very animated conversation with the barista. She's kind of waving her arms, and they're both smiling and laughing. So I wasn't in a rush, but out of curiosity, I popped out my earbuds. And sure enough, they're going on about their holidays and their plans and the kids and presents, and she starts to move down the line. So it's my turn to order. And I was greeted with this very warm and sincere welcome. This woman said to me, "Hi, my name's Lily. What's your name?" I said, "I'm Ryan." She said, "Ryan, what can I make for you today?" I said, "Well, I want a grande pumpkin spice latte." She said, "You want whipped cream on that, don't you?" I said, yeah, I want the whipped cream. She said, "I'll tell you what I'm going to do." She said, "I'm going to make it extra hot, load it up with whipped cream, sprinkle a little nutmeg on top. That's how I like it. You're going to love it." I said, "Sounds great." She said, "Where are you going?" I said, "Cleveland." She said, "Are you going back to Cleveland to spend the holiday with your family?" I said, "Yes." Now, at this point, I start looking around for the camera, right? I mean, I'm trying to get a latte. So I move down the line, and the conversation continues, and she's funny. She's asking me questions about my family and our holiday traditions. She's laughing, and I'm laughing. And she hands me my drink and says to me, "Ryan, have a safe trip back to Cleveland. Go create some extraordinary memories with your family. When you come back through the Minneapolis airport, I want you to stop here and tell me all about it." So I get my drink, I start walking away, and I stop and I look back at this woman, and I think to myself, it's Christmas Eve. Most people would rather be anywhere else in the world than serving coffee in an airport. Not her. It was like she was meant to be there. And I couldn't help myself. I had to go back. So I did. I walked back and I said, "Excuse me, Lily." And she jumps around. "Ryan, is everything okay with the latte?" I said, "No." I said, "The latte is perfect. I just had to come back and ask you, what is your secret to making such meaningful connections over serving coffee?" Well, she corrected me. She said, "Ryan, I'm not serving coffee." I said, "Okay, what are you doing?" She had thought about this. And what she told me was, "I'm pouring happiness into people's lives." I said, "You're pouring what?" Like, what is pouring happiness? And her definition of pouring happiness. She wants to be happy in her life. She wants to be around happy people. She cares about her customers. She wants them to come back. So she chooses, even on Christmas Eve, to smile, to have fun, to help people, to just be happy. Instead of just focusing on how to be successful, focus on how to be helpful. The other thing she understands and masters straight away is the very specific and intentional decision around how she chooses to show up, even on Christmas Eve. You know this. A lot of things happen in work and in our lives that are beyond our sphere of influence or control. She doesn't control the weather in Minneapolis. Trust me, I live there. All she gets to own is how she chooses to respond to those things. Decide how you show up. It's interesting, when I met Lily, and she would have had no way of knowing this, but I was pretty heavy in the heart and had a lot on my mind. And my parents, both retired school teachers, married 45 years. About 3 months before that holiday, I got a call from Mom. We got some really tough medical news about Dad. It was a terminal diagnosis, and we knew we probably weren't going to have a lot of time. So I was sitting in that airport on Christmas Eve, not in the best place in the world. I will never forget that cup of coffee. When you decide to show up consistently as the best version of who you are, it gives you your best opportunity to meet people where they are. And you never know when someone needs you to be your best.
That's a good one. That's a good one.
So thank you
Wow.
for being your best and always.
Thank you. Good job, Ed. Anybody have any last minute conversation? Okay.
That was good.
Well, thank you
You're
for
welcome. Thank you.
all of you for showing up, and we getting our credit for this. Thank you for letting
Working
us out
with
a
you.
little early.
Yeah, no problem. You're still doing the work. No, no.
Yes, we are.
We're just taking a 20-minute break at the end of this thing.
Thank you all for waiting for me. I appreciate that, and thank you so much for the card. It's beautiful.
You're welcome. Just know we're here for each other.
Yep, we're the team. Gotta have the whole
That's
team
right. We're finally a team of 7. Soon to be 8.
I'll see you tomorrow morning.
Yes.
Oh, man.
And tomorrow too.
We have our PAC meeting tomorrow. Oh, okay. So that's why we'll see each other tomorrow. Which now I kind of like doing this through Zoom when I don't have to drive to the services. But I would like to start eventually going. Especially on the days we always provide us lunch.
Well, and thank you for the dinner as well.
You're very welcome.
Okay.
Michelle, I think we need to formally.
You need to formally adjourn.
I am.
Okay.
Oh, okay. But that's just so they can cut it
You
off.
want this one? Yeah. Yes, ma'am, absolutely.
Okay. We are adjourning our meeting at 8:11 p.m. Everybody have a good evening.